Yo, 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 it's the word. It's your boy All Love. I'm in here with my pops. You heard me? We got a very special episode, man. This is definitely going to be a gift from us to you. You're welcome in ahead of time. So, I'm going to go ahead and let my pops introduce himself.
All right, well, thanks. I appreciate being on the podcast, son. I'm Darren Merriweather Sr.,
You
and of
heard me?
course, the junior is next.
You heard me?
But we really want to share today from our hearts today about some stuff that we believe are going to help out families and fathers, particularly fathers, about how to navigate through relationships and family and how to build up the people that we've been entrusted to, and that's our children.
Come on now, talk about it, pops. Most definitely. So, we're going to get right into it. So, we're going to start with matriarch and patriarch. Go ahead and break that down for us, pops.
Yeah, in order to really understand that biblically, we need to go back into the beginning. And so, when God created the man, Adam, in Genesis, he basically created someone that was going to be his representative in the earth. And when he did create him, the Bible says that he created him from the dust of the earth, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and he became a living soul. He became a three-part being. But what was so significant about Adam was he was God's representative. So that word, I think in the Hebrew, is called rock, and ruach, Ruach, is a Hebrew word, and in the Greek, which is the New Testament, is the word pneuma, and that's where we get the word spirit from. So he gave him his spirit. So Adam is a spirit being that actually had a body that was made from the dust of the earth,
Come on
and he
now.
became a living soul. Now, what does that have to do with family and how a man is supposed to be? How can I say this? The God person in the family. Well, when you continue on in that story, we find Eve is created. She's created from Adam. Actually, the Bible says that God put him in a deep sleep and took a rib from him, and he formed woman. Now, what's different about those, and it's important to make this distinction, is that God created man himself from the earth
Come on now.
and made him into a living being. But the woman was took out of man. And so, and this maybe sound like a play on words, but
Mm.
it's not.
No, I like the way
Um,
you broke that down.
yeah. The human race, Human, is basically co parts of man and woman. The word woman, again, play on words, is a man with a womb. Woe man.
Come on now.
We get genders, and I know this is a hot topic in our culture today, but we get genders basically from male and female, not from man. And I know that's a confusion, but you got to really study the word, the Bible, in order to understand where I'm coming from. But that word man is just a distinction of the species where we get the word human from. Anyway, but we continue on with the story. And so he gave him a helper, the Bible says, that was suitable for him. He needed somebody to help him with something that God had given him. What did God give Adam? He gave him dominion over the entire earth.
Come on now.
And we know this because he spoke it that he wanted them to take authority, rulership over the entire earth. And right before the podcast, we were talking about, we can use an analogy that Adam was the CEO of the earth,
Come on now.
and God is the owner of the company.
Break it
And
down,
so,
simplified form,
so
pops.
he said, "I'm going to make you CEO. You're in charge of this corporation called Earth, and so I want you to rule over it. I want you to have authority over it. You name everything. However you want to set it up, you set it up. But I'm giving you this authority with just one caveat. That caveat is don't partake of that tree right there.
Mm.
And the tree is not really what was so significant. God was allowing the man to exercise his free will. Because if you don't have a free will, you're just an android, you're a robot.
Robot, absolutely.
If you can't say yes or no to something, then you're not really a free will being. And so that tree just represented an opportunity for Adam to do just that, exercise his free will. But to advance the story, with the matriarch and the patriarch, we know that the paternal side of the family comes from the father. That's the patriarch.
Absolutely.
And the matriarch side of the family comes from the mother. It was kind of the M's and the M's and the P's and the B's, the paternals, the patriarch, the M.
Absolutely.
But so anyway, Adam being the patriarch, he was the first person to represent God in his fullest form.
Mm.
You get me?
Mm-hmm.
And the matriarch would represent Adam in his fullest form.
Mm.
Again, this is controversial in our culture today, but it's the truth. When you look at how God wanted the relationship to be, he wanted order.
Absolutely.
Key word right there, order. What is order? Order is the absence of chaos.
Mm.
Okay. Anytime
Come
you
on now,
find
talk to
a
him, Pops.
chaotic situation, you can bet on the fact that there is no order.
Absolutely.
And so Adam also represented to our human culture the first leader, the first person that we see leadership. And therefore, when the event happened in the garden to where Eve partook of the tree after she was tempted by the serpent and then gave of the tree, and then Adam did it also. Here is something that's really key that we cannot miss. Sin did not enter the earth the moment that Eve partook of the tree.
Come on now.
Sin entered the earth when the leader, the CEO of the corporation, ate of the tree.
Come on now.
And the moment he ate of the tree, the both of them, their eyes were open. And so there's a gap between Eve partaking and Adam. The gap is Eve didn't, their eyes did not open when Eve partook of the tree.
Come on now.
There was no, how can I say that? There was no awakening to sin until Adam did it. And so with the first Adam the Bible talks about, he is the reason why sin entered the earth. And then we can advance the story, and that the second Adam, which we know is Jesus, he is the one that's going to remove the curse of sin.
Come on now.
Okay. But the reason why I wanted to bring that up, and we'll go into Moses in a minute, is that leadership is so important in families. It doesn't devalue women to say that the man is the head of the home.
Absolutely.
You know, if you look at some of our tax documents, I was just looking at, listening to a TikTok where they was talking about that when you file head of household, that's, you know, you're the head person,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I know in our culture, we try to intermingle who's the head and who's not the head, or we're equally head and all that stuff. But if you're equally head and you come to a fork in the road and one head want to go this way and one goes the other way, then you have a separation.
Come on now. And this is coming from somebody who's been married at least, 30 plus now?
32.
32 of them things now. Come
32
on now.
years.
Hey, yeah. Make
Same
sure y'all
woman,
listening.
Same woman. We both met in church. Both have the same values. And not to say that we haven't been challenged, but the point is, and I'm going back to that head thing and that fork in the road. When that happens, that's when divorce comes into play.
Come on now.
Or people that have relationship without marriage. Because see, then it's easy to approach a fork in the road because you do what you want to do, I do what I want to do.
Absolutely.
You know, and we cohabitate however we want to cohabitate. But when you have a vision, going back to Adam, when you have a vision, that vision drives you in one direction. It doesn't drive you in multiple directions. When you have multiple directions, it's no longer a vision, it's division. It's two divisions trying to go their way.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now let's go to the story of Moses and why Moses is a very good picture of leadership and how men, as leaders of their family, can learn from him. First of all, he was the first major deliverer in the Bible. He's the one that actually, a whole chapter in Exodus is written about him, and he's even talked about in the New Testament.
Come on now.
This man is a very significant biblical character. But anyway, Moses' greatest challenge was, as a leader, how do I get a stubborn people, to go where God wants them to go?
Come on now.
Okay? And so when God gave him a mandate, and here's these two tie in, but when God gave him a mandate, basically he spoke to him. He said, Moses, I want you to be the point person to deliver my people out of Egypt. And when he gave him that mandate, he said, I'm going to give you a promise with that.
Come on now.
Okay. And every time God does something in the life of one of his people, he gives them a promise. Moses' promise was, I'm going to take you into a land flowing with milk and honey. And we talked about this
Yes, sir.
not too long ago.
Yes, sir.
But the journey from Egypt, which is a representation of slavery, and that could be the slave mind, physical slavery, however you want to encapsulate it. It's still slavery, whether you think it is or whether you actually physically live in it. He is that representative. How to be set free from that? It's a mindset.
Absolutely.
Physical bonds is different, of course. If you're physically enslaved, that's just it. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
But mentally, you can fall into the same trap as someone that's physically in slavery.
Absolutely.
So he had to find a way by his leadership gift to get these people to change.
Who's been in the actual physical slavery.
They were actually slaves. So anyway, I'm gonna advance the story. They get out of Egypt. They go through the Red Sea, of course, if you ever watched the Ten Commandments. And now they're in this place called the desert. Desert is a metaphorical place as well as a physical place.
Break it down.
Yeah, a desert is a place where a lot of things die. There's not a lot of life in the desert. But if you go back to right when they entered the desert, what did Moses have? What did God give him?
What, was just a staff?
He gave him a promise.
Oh, the promise, my bad.
Yeah, so you weren't going to die in the desert was a promise.
Absolutely.
Why? Because he said, I'm taking you to a land.
Promised land and filled with milk and honey.
With milk and honey. So if they were to just embrace the promise and not embrace their current situation, they would have knew that they were going to the promised land. But again, advancing the story, they ended up dying. A whole generation of them died, and they ended up spending 40 years in the desert, just wandering around in the desert. And I think we talked about this previously. One of the points that came out was that was only like a 10 to a 14-day journey walking.
Come on now.
From Egypt. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, this is what intrigued me the most. This is what had me ask him, say, hey, Pops, I need this same work on a podcast, man, because this is powerful. Make sure y'all paying attention.
But it was only about a 10 to a 14-day journey. But it took them 40 years. And the question is why? Because the desert represented something else. It represented a place of death, because there's not a lot of life in the desert. But it also represented a place of testing. In order for them to be complete, they had to follow the promise. To follow the orders of their leadership, which was Moses, and they had to pass this test.
Come on now.
So I have examples of people taking the exact same test over and over and over and over and never passing the test over and over. And eventually they say, I got it. They finally pass the test. Mm-hmm. So if you pass the test, you don't no longer have to take the test.
Absolutely.
But if you continue to fail the test, if you're persistent, you're going to have to keep taking the test.
Absolutely.
So 40 years represent a continually test that should have been done in 10 to 14 days.
That's powerful.
It's powerful. All right, so we advance again. Moses got them to where God wanted them to be. He got them to that point, and that's when it was revealed that generation would no longer live there. But one of the things that I find intriguing about the whole situation is that today, if we don't, as fathers, if we don't embrace a vision for our families, we're going to keep going through a test.
Come on now.
A trial. It's going to be like, why am I completing this loop? Why am I not getting the right connection with my wife or with my children? Why is this seeming like it's so difficult? Number one, you don't have a vision. Mm-hmm. You don't know what it means to be a leader, someone that has the patriotic type spirit. Somebody that's so concerned about what God has given you to manage that you're taking shortcuts.
Absolutely.
Or you're absent. You're not there. We know that happens, especially in the Black community, where we don't have fathers. Mm-hmm. There is no father, and of course that experience happened with us. Mm-hmm. For reasons I don't think this podcast has time to deal with. We experienced that.
Absolutely.
I experienced that with my father. And that's part of the curse.
The cycle.
It's a cycle. So we have to break it. And how do we break it? Number one, right now, we're giving you information. We're saying, listen, fathers, don't abandon what God has given you. Take responsibility and be accountable for what God has given you. Regardless if you're a religious person or a spiritual person.
Come on now.
Take accountability of that child, because that child is going to be an adult, Lord willing, and they're going to have to deal with this culture, this life, and if they don't have direction, which is what fathers give, because of the patriotic spirit,
Yes, come on
I'm
now.
trying to keep throwing it in there.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have that, then they're actually trying to find their own way, and that's a horrible way for a child to have to live.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But, I'll pass it back over.
Yeah, no, that was that's what we're here for. There's no judgment. There's none of that going on, man. Like you can look at it how you want to, but trust me, we got to wake up and live our lives exactly how we live our lives every single day.
I'm gonna be transparent on this podcast. I came from a single parent family.
Come on now.
My mom was a heavy drug user.
Shout out to grandma.
My father was what we would call Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. So he was out there dibbling and dabbling. He was married at one point. That didn't work out, and so he found out his pleasures were better if he remained single and had his opportunity to sow his seeds wherever. But he was absent from my life, and so I grew up not saying that I didn't know him, because I did know him. But he wasn't a part of my everyday life. He wasn't imparting into me what fathers are supposed to do. And unfortunately, that same cycle completed itself between me and my son, because I was planning on marrying his mother, and that relationship broke off. And even though we did have some relationships, as far as parents, after that, it kind of went downhill once I got married. And it went so far downhill that it negatively impacted the life of me being a father. Absolutely. And so I don't want anyone else out here to make that mistake. We have technology. We have information. Before you inject, we have technology and information today right here in our hands that can give us the information we need to be better fathers.
Absolutely. But no, just to touch on that as well, and that's one of the reasons why I did this podcast as well, is just encourage people, man, because like life situations will derail you. I let you guys hear my story on how I became a single father, and that was literally just me repeating the same cycle my father went through, his father, and it just keeps going. So we here just to encourage, man. You know what I mean? And right now, just to say the status of it, this is, man, it's a pleasure being next to my pops. Like
I feel likewise. Man. I had many a days, boy, I was in tears because I didn't have access to my son. And I'm telling you today, I love the fact that we can kick it, that I can get a chance to enjoy my grandkids. I mean, it's just a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Best advice person that I have. Like I call him random. Topics just be so random. We always, you know what I'm saying, hit me what I need though. It's amazing. And although he was absent for that short period of time, and I will say a short period of time because I do remember seeing my pops a lot growing up. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. Until him and my mom had the little falling out, and then that happened. But
and that's unfortunate, man.
Absolutely,
and it happens all the time. Don't think this is an isolated thing. Black men, not the ones that do want to be a part of their kids' family. Man, if you're in the lady that the mother of the children are bitter, it's going to be kind of tough. It's going to be tough, hard. Man, because the system is not set up for men to successfully be fathers. Absolutely. It's set up for mothers to be mothers. And so the system, you really had to fight, man, to get your rights.
Absolutely, and not knowing them rights is a problem as well. So like if you're hearing this and you're going through that situation right now, man, just do some research, man. You got a little bit more say so than you think. Personal experience, I was going through court to get custody of my oldest, and that took 4 years. So. I say about 3.5 years in, I just randomly asked my public defender, because I didn't have a lawyer at the time. I asked my public defender, hey, can I speak? He was like, oh, yeah, you can speak. I didn't know that I can speak. So I went up there and I spoke to them for about 15, 20 minutes. And when I left that court day, they said, we're going to start the process returning your child home today. So just something that simple changed the trajectory of what was going on, because I felt like that was just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. So it's powerful, man.
Yeah. And basically, to sum up what I shared today, I can sum it up this way. is when you're dealing with fathers and you're dealing with families, the mandate that God gave family, fathers, I'm talking about, for families, is that I want you to be the provider. I want you to be the protector, and I want you to be the resource that your children can come to. And we probably can do this maybe in the future, but I can give you breakdowns of how each one of these things is biblically essential, even in today's society. We're not just talking about for spiritual people. We're talking about just being a man. How if you just be the protector, the provider, and being the source for your children and your significant your family, to be a part of the family, you succeed that way. I mean, society succeeds that way. So we don't need broken families.
Come on now.
Again, that's another controversial word there. We need families that have vision and unity. And the only way you're going to get that is, as men, we have to take our responsibility and be accountable, not just to our families, but also to society. So that's my takeaway as far as being a patriarch in today's society.
And I wasn't even familiar with those words at all. I'm sure I've heard them, but the way he just broke this down was special. It's a treat. Like I said earlier, you guys are welcome. Yes, you guys are very welcome. But yeah, man, that's Full Time Father podcast, man. You got anything else you want to touch on, Pops? You want to bless them with a couple few words before we leave?
Actually, I think basically I got out the message I think is for this season. I just want to encourage men, especially black men, people of color. Don't give up on your family, man.
Come on now.
Just don't give up, man. Just fight hard. It's a test. It's a trial. It's only for a season. Don't let society tell you who you are to your children. And I'm gonna say this because I'm speaking hopefully prophetically. Your wife.
Come on.
So whoever that person is that you want to spend the rest of your life with, fight for that, man. That's what I have to share.
Absolutely, man. Trials and tribulations, they're going to come. Just stand up. How we say it, stand on business.
Mm-hmm.
Just stand on business, man.
Keep fighting.
Absolutely. You may not have the answers now, but, it's just like starting anything, even when it's parenting or just say for a business. You won't fully know. You wouldn't say that you're knowledgeable. You wouldn't be a master at it if you haven't actually went through it, So just gotta, strap them boots up, man. I always say that. Strap them boots up and let's get to it. Just I'm saying go in face first. I remember when I was found out that I was going to be a father. Was I nervous? Absolutely, 100%. But I just knew with all the examples that I had around me of single parents that this is something that I can do. I remember the ups and downs I had with my mom. And my friends' mothers. Like I said this before. Like one of my friends, he has two older sisters that had kids when I was like 14, 15. You know what I'm saying? And they were single parents and stuff. So I would just had so many examples around me. So when it was time to. It was time to, it was no question. I had no guidance or nothing how I was going to get through it. It happened. And oh man, mistakes, man, I don't really look at mistakes how people look at mistakes. I say I don't take L's, I take lessons. Don't take losses, I take lessons. So if you get a lesson out of it, it was worth the situation. So, But yeah, man. Full Time Father podcast. There is no love like all love. You heard me?